Hello, Oscar. Grandpa here, and of course, Moosey. Say hello, Moosey. Hello, hello, Oscar. There we are. Great picture Mummy sent of you skating. I thought you're doing fantastically well. Keep at it, young man. You're really good. Lots of love from me and from Granny. Granny's going to be cooking roast chicken for supper tonight. Whoa! And roasty potatoes. Oh, that'll be lovely, won't it, Moosey? Oh, yes, absolutely. So, I hope you've had a really, really good time with Mummy and Daddy and your little sister Annabelle. And I thought I would read you a little bit more of the Playful Panda. If you remember, May May and Chi Chi, the two panda cubs, were not getting on well, were they? And Chi Chi was telling telltales about his sister, or her sister, sorry. And the cubs had forgotten all about the treats they had, and Zoe couldn't get a word in over their angry squabbling. Her heart sank even further as Chi Chi pushed her sister over. The Playful Panda was very naughty. You're not naughty, are you, Oscar? You're a very nice boy. Meet chirped a sudden warning, and from behind her Zoe heard a loud, sneering voice. Fussing and fighting already, I see. I just knew those pandas would be trouble. Zoe groaned quietly as horrid Mr. Pinch marched into the enclosure. Oh no! This morning was getting worse and worse. So it's chapter 6 now. Double trouble. And there's angry Mr. Pinch. Look at him looking very angry with Zoe and Meep. So it's called Double Trouble. Mr. Pinch peered snootily round the enclosure. I was expecting to find a real grown-up zookeeper here, he announced, narrowing his eyes at Zoe. Meep leapt onto Zoe's shoulder and chattered angrily, and Zoe shot her little friend a warning look. Mr. Pinch did not approve of Zoe and Meep wandering freely around the zoo and all the enclosures. Even when they were trying to help, he would grumble. Miss Parker, this is a job for zoo staff, not a little girl and a naughty lemur. What are you doing, Moosey? You being naughty? No, I'm not being naughty. Sit still then. Stephanie went to give Alex his breakfast, Zoe told Mr. Pinch politely. I promised to stay and watch the cubs while she was gone. Just then, Chi Chi let out an especially noisy squeal and thumped May May with her little paw. Mr. Pinch glared at the bickering pandas down his long, thin nose. I've heard all about the pandas fighting, he announced. I told Mr. Higgins they would be a nuisance, but they won't be causing trouble in my zoo for long. He nodded his head bossily. Mr. Higgins wants there to be a special event on Friday to welcome the pandas to the rescue zoo. Lots of important people will be there, visitors, news reporters, even the mayor. I won't have the cubs being bothersome in front of them. If they're still fighting by then, I'll start proceedings to send one of them to another zoo. Meep gave a squeak of alarm, and Zoe stared at Mr. Pinch in horror. But Friday's just a few days away, she stammered, glancing at the squabbling cubs. It seemed almost impossible that they would make friends by then. Well, they'd better start getting along quickly, Mr. Pinch told her nastily. Now I've come to take some photos of the cubs so I can make posters for the event. I'd better get started. I'm very busy as usual. He pulled a camera out of his pocket and pointed at Chi Chi, that one first. He stepped over to the little panda, but as he held the camera up to his face, Chi Chi rolled away from him with a playful squeal. Sit still, Mr. Pinch snapped. He moved towards Chi Chi again, but the cub gave another excited squeak and scampered quickly around Mr. Pinch, so that she was perched behind him. Mr. Pinch whirled round crossly, and cheeky Chi Chi turned a roly-poly through his legs, landing right back where she'd started. What a silly little Chi Chi. That's enough, Mr. Pinch spluttered, suddenly looking very hot and red. I will not stand for such rude behaviour. I am the zoo manager. Well, if you won't behave, I'll take a photo of your sister first. He turned to May May, who gazed up at him quietly. Next to bold, naughty Chi Chi, she looked so timid and well-behaved, So what happened next was even more of a surprise. The little panda poked her tiny pink tongue out at Mr. Pinch. Chi-Chi let out a delighted squeak of laughter at her sister being naughty. She scrambled over to May-May and playfully rolled her around on the ground, squealing happily. When they sat up again, they were covered in dirt, mud and big bits of twig. Mr. Pinch stared angrily at them. Naughty, messy creatures, he fumed. I can't tell them apart now. Zoe looked at the cubs. She knew which fluffy bundle was Chi-Chi, in which was May-May, even though the splodge on May-May's tummy was hidden by the mud. But something was different about them. The cubs were huddled close, whispering to each other. Their eyes were bright and excited. They're having fun together, Zoe realised, suddenly feeling hopeful. They're really getting along, and it's because they both love causing trouble for Mr. Pinch. The zoo manager scowled at her, his face very pink. Which one is which? He snapped. I don't have all day. That's Chi-Chi, Zoe said, pointing. She's the older twin. And that's May-May. She's a tiny bit smaller than her sister. Well, they're both just as troublesome as each other, if you ask me, Mr. Pinch grumbled. Now, where's my camera? I dropped it over here somewhere. He turned round to pick up the camera, muttering crossly. While he was looking away, May-May leaned over to squeak in her sister's ear. Chi-Chi giggled, and just before Mr. Pinch turned back, the twins swapped places. Meep squealed with laughter, and Zoe couldn't help smiling. The cheeky pandas were just too funny, and she was so relieved to see them starting to make friends. Mr. Pinch narrowed his eyes at her suspiciously. "You'd better not be tricking me," he warned her. "If you are, you'll be in big trouble." "I'm not tricking you, I promise," Zoe said truthfully. After all, she thought, I did tell you the truth. It wasn't my fault the baby switched. Mr. Pinch scowled at the muddy pandas. "Now the little pests are going to be all dirty on my posters," he grumbled. He held up the camera again. Straight away the cubs took off. Chi-Chi scampered playfully in one direction, towards the waterfall. May-May padded the other way, past the wooden platforms. "Come back here this instant," Mr. Pinch shouted. But the cubs tumbled from one part of the enclosure to the other, and never stayed still long enough for the furious zoo manager to take their photos. Look, there's Mr. Pinch. He's tried to find them, getting really upset because they're being naughty. You're not naughty, are you, Oscar? You're a nice, good little boy. Well, you might be a bit naughty sometimes. I expect everybody is. Mr. Pinch chased them until he was gasping for breath. Eventually he threw his hands in the air. His hat was tipped crookedly over one eye, and his face was red and hot. "I give up," he snapped. "Never in all my years as manager of the rescue zoo have I seen such naughty behaviour. I'll be informing Mr. Higgins about this." He stormed out of the enclosure and down the path, muttering fiercely under his breath. As soon as he turned the corner, Zoe and Meep looked at each other and giggled. "That was so much fun," the little lemur chattered gleefully. Horrid old Mr. Pinch was as red as a raspberry. Whoa. Zoe grinned happily. Together the twins were double trouble, but she didn't mind. All that mattered was that the sisters were starting to get along, and as long as they were friends they could both stay at the rescue zoo. She just hoped it would last. "Chi-Chi, May-May," she called. "He's gone. Come and finish your breakfast now." The pandas bounded back over, and she bent down to give them both a cuddle. Chi-Chi squeaked brightly up at her. Zoe laughed. "Yes, it looked like you were enjoying yourself," she told the cheeky little cub. She shared out the rest of the apple and bamboo and held her breath, hoping the cubs would nibble their treats happily this time. But her heart sank as naughty Chi-Chi snatched her sister's apple and scrambled playfully away with it, while May-May gave a cross little squeak. Chi-Chi, naughty Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi grumbled that May-May was no fun. Suddenly the pandas were fighting all over again. "They're still not getting along, Meep," groaned Zoe. "I can't believe it. I thought they were starting to make friends. But that was only when they were having fun teasing Mr. Pinch. Now that he's gone, they're falling out just like before." Look, there's Zoe looking a bit sad, holding Meep. What is she going to do then, Oscar? Zoe glanced at the older cub, who was splashing around in the waterfall. Chi-Chi just wants to play and be naughty. She doesn't understand that May-May is quieter and doesn't always want to join in. Meep's little nose wrinkled up anxiously. What shall we do, Zoe? He chirped. Zoe bit her lip, feeling very worried. We'd better go and find Stephanie and tell her what Mr. Pinch said. This is really serious. If the babies don't make friends before Friday, one of them will be sent away. We can't let that happen. Chapter 7. Missing May-May. Just read a little bit of this. On Friday, Zoe flew into the cottage and dropped her school bag on the kitchen table. Meep, she called breathlessly. I'm back. I ran all the way home. There was a tiny squeak from the bowl of bananas on the worktop. Then Meep's furry little head popped up, munching away. Meep, you're supposed to peel the bananas before you eat them, Zoe told her friend, gathering him up for a cuddle. Come on, let's go straight to the panda enclosure. Today's the special welcome event. Lots of important people will be arriving soon, all wanting to meet Chi-Chi and May-May. And Mr. Pinch will be watching to see if they're getting along. Oh my goodness, Oscar, what do you think's going to happen? Well, I think we ought to stop there this time, and we'll pick up on what happens next time, and hopefully it'll have a nice, happy outcome. And there we are for today. And it's lots of love from me. It's lots of love from Granny. And Granny says that it was great seeing you on your skates today and really making an effort. You were really working hard at it. And Granny didn't learn to skate until she was 9 years old, and you're only 6, so you're way ahead of Granny. So you were doing very well. Just keep at it, Oscar. I think you're going to do very well. Isn't that right, Moosey? Yep, that's right. Moosey skates, you know. Did you know that? Yeah, he skates a bit. But we don't have a lot of ice here, so it's a bit difficult. He can, you know, when we go to the reservoir, he can fall in trying to skate, but he gets a bit wet. Is that right, Moosey? That's right. Yeah, no, Grandpa being silly. Okay, well, Oscar, lots of love from Granny and Grandpa, and from Moosey, and lots of love to your little sister, Annabelle, and to Mummy and Daddy, and hope you're all well, and I'll be catching up and reading to you again soon, so bye for now. Bye, Oscar. Bye.